on this from the very beginning, just because largely we recognise the significant risk that it poses to the community. The city has put in a hell of a lot of money, a hell of a lot of research, and attempted to get some of the best minds to interrogate the business case. We looked at the business case for WestConnex at the beginning. It didn't add up, so we did our own. We got an independent auditor to go in and do their own analysis. And to quote them, they said it was a confused document filled with contradictions. It's Australia's most expensive toll road project, and it's estimated to cost $16.8 billion. The city in the next couple of days will be releasing a whole lot of very detailed financial information that is the result of independent auditors' expertise. I'm not going to get into too much of the detail on that. What I'd probably like to talk about is more so is strategy. So the thinking behind this whole toll road comes from these very archaic, very hierarchical, very scratch your mates back type thinking. Anyone who is putting, $16.8 billion into roads in 2018 is nuts. Absolutely insane. What I think a lot of the digging that the city has done has also acknowledged is that the Ponzi scheme nature of this thing. You can't have stage 1, 2 and 3 without then going north, going south and going all over the place. It's a very shaky business case. It's very precarious. And so while the temptation is to feel incredibly defeated by the progress that's being made, I think we have to remind ourselves of its fragility and the fact that fundamentally this thing is not of our time and is not for the future provides us all with, I think, a level of comfort. But how do we use that kind of thinking to overthrow this linear, patriarchal, hierarchical, fundamentally inequitable mode of decision making? Secret, we think about, the people up in their castles making decision and making aspersions that affect us all without ever really letting the moat down. And one of the ways that I guess we've been able to do that is we have to look at each other and recognise ourselves as a movement. We're not advocating or lobbying, we're creating a movement. And we are fundamentally decentralised, we are unpredictable. We could lock ourselves onto trees tomorrow, or we could, in my fantasy scenario, all drive our council garbage trucks and blockade the bloody thing. Who knows? Not that I'm seeding any ideas or predicting anything of that nature. But I think one of our challenges though is that despite the fact that we are decentralised and we are a movement, we do exist within these structures. So how do we use ourselves and how do we catalyse a movement within the structures that already exist? The March election, I think, is the flashpoint that I'm working towards. And that's the thing that I think is going to either fundamentally erode the government's own confidence in this project or set it on a trajectory that could be, we don't know really. We don't know what the trajectory we could be. All we can really do is keep up the pressure. But the work that we've been doing with the air pollution monitoring has been quite interesting in this sense, because what we're doing is we're challenging the conventional wisdom of the EPA and saying, hang on a minute, the way that you're calculating air pollution is just incorrect. And they say to calculate air pollution monitoring well, you've got to spend $1 million. And that's incorrect. 3 weeks ago, Wendy was in the room, a whole bunch of people were in the room, people from Westpac, people from Lendlease, people from the committee for Sydney and Arup were all in the room, and they all took an active role in demonstrating that we can use technology as cheap as $30 a unit to challenge the conventional wisdom. And when we can challenge the conventional wisdom in a way that is well communicated and that demonstrates to people, hopefully in those key marginal seats ahead of the next election, that this toll road is really no good for them at a deep, emotional, fundamental human level, I really think we can win. And so that's why the inquiry into the impact of WestConnex is really important. Cut and paste until your heart's content from the city's very well thought out, very important research. Frankly, I don't understand it all, but I'll copy and paste. But make sure that when you do that, you accompany those words with a story or an example or a case study or a human story of how it has affected you, how it has affected your neighbours. What are your fears for King Street? What are your fears for Euston Road? What are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice? How far are you willing to go to stop it? Because I think that's where the war will be fought, and that's where comes March, when we have a confluence of incredibly hot temperatures, incredibly polluted air that we can demonstrate is incredibly polluted, and more congestion than any other time in the year. That's when we demonstrate that this is just a bad idea and persuade people on a fundamental human level, because we can talk numbers till we're blue in the face and they're really important, but it's about connecting with people, and I think, putting that kind of pressure on them. So this will be ready in the next couple of days.